Check it, J25's leading, we kick it off strong. Block grifting extraordinaire, in his zone, never wrong. Creamers on point, tail slick and quick. High-ends wisdom lands, every line sticks. Orange cubicle crew, we're setting the tone. 1-2 ounce flow breaks, carving its own. Your hands got queries, hard hitting, smart. Questions that probe deep straight to the heart. Cubicle, with a voice to choice. Every story celebrated, make some noise. Jenny's in the mix, she's playing a part. With ordinals and vibes, craft and art. Tune in, vibe out, feel the beat, get the clout. This is the crew, that's what we about. Stories.
Hey guys, Huda with Crypto Slam here with an exclusive Crypto Slam NFT whitelist giveaway for our family of Slam Vision shows. NFT Live, Orange Cubicle, Inside NFTs, and the Little Noun Show viewers, head over to celber.xyz/CryptoSlam and use code SlamVisionTV to enter one of our final Crypto Slam NFT giveaways of the preseason. Good luck and stay tuned to Crypto Slam and Slam Vision for more details on all of the exciting things we have coming at Crypto Slam.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's the pre-halving BRC-20 episode of Orange Cubicle. We got the all-star crew in here today with some all-star guests. If you don't know them, then you haven't been in the space, really. If you do, stay tuned for some tough questions from the Orange Cubicle crew. Good morning, guys. How are you doing? Are you back? Are you all sobered up from NOST NYC?
Oh man, I'm still my voice is still a little hoarse. It's
40-year-olds in the club trying to yell at each other like, hey, what's up?
And Binari, you weren't out there, were you?
No, I wasn't. I'm in Turkey currently.
Okay. Yeah, you're coming in a little choppy there, but maybe the signal will improve. Yeah, let's get on with the show. Maybe Bob, what do you think, J25? We go through Bob's intro and then Binari's and then we kick it off. What do you think?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Bob, tell us about you and tell us about the thread and tell us about your company and tell us about everything that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bob Bodily, CEO of bioniq. bioniq is an ordinals marketplace and launchpad. The best way to think about us, we're kind of the closest thing to an L2 ordinals marketplace that exists right now, meaning we're not building on Bitcoin L1. We're strategically building on a Bitcoin sidechain, and so you get all the benefits of a sidechain. You get fast transactions and really low fees on transactions and a lot more programmability. And so we're leveraging all of that to really lean into dynamic ordinals and kind of gamifying ordinals. So imagine being able to stake your ordinals and earn runes token, or stake your ordinals and earn BRC-20, or burn X amount of ordinals to get X amount of a new collection, or think about dynamically upgrading your collection over time, adding layers or doing other interesting things on the kind of staking game, idle game, incremental game side. So that's kind of everything we're doing with bioniq. We have a collection launching next week that we're really excited about, kind of pioneering a lot of the dynamic ordinals work that we're doing, and we're collabing with a bunch of collections on the Bitcoin side. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, with the halving coming up, we have runes launching, and I know that Binari and others have been working on BRC-20 2.0 for a while. Got a chance to catch up with him at ETH Denver, and we chatted for like an hour, and it blew my mind. And so, I coined the upgrade BRC-20 2.0 because I think it's a paradigm shift in BRC-20.
I was like, it's like, we call it BRC-20 finance module, or like the programmable module. He's like, no, 2.0, 2.0. I'm like, no,
branding.
It's like finance module. It's the finance module. He's like, no, don't use finance. I'm like, okay, like
No, this is great though,
got stuck.
because Binari more in the coding side, Bob, more on the, he talks a lot. You do a lot of threads. You're forward facing on X, breaking things down for us. I think this is a huge disconnect that we see a lot of times between the coder side and the user side. And, I think that's just a great example. Sorry, I wanted to jump in there. Please keep going, Bob.
Yeah, so really excited about the interesting programmability feature for BRC-20. I think once the runes hype dies down a little bit, people will realize it's still just a layer one meta protocol on Bitcoin, and you're going to trade at the speed and cost of Bitcoin, and it's going to be a little bit limiting in terms of what you can and can't do.
Okay.
And so I think the future of fungible token protocols on Bitcoin is not clear cut. A lot of people are just going straight to runes 100%. They think it's game over for everything else. And I think there's still plenty of interesting things for the future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Binari, please, introduce yourself, and then
Okay.
anything you want to add.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Binari. We are known for BestInSlot.xyz, the ordinals aggregator and explorer. We also have infrastructure services, API services. We currently power more than 330 entities, developers, collections, etc. And we also have the OPI.network, the open source meta protocol indexer for Bitcoin native assets. So we've been doing a lot of things in the ecosystem, and previously I've been around since 2011. I did a lot of like mining things. I did all these like shitcoining stuff before with like other proof of work coins and like Doggy coin, Vert coin, colored coins, like all those kind of stuff. Master coins were like super exciting at that time. And then I moved on to Ethereum in 2016. And since then, I did use a lot of like layer twos and stuff, but I mostly stuck to Ethereum stuff, especially DeFi and NFTs. DeFi became really like a, I don't know, I just liked DeFi things. I found myself in that. And when ordinals happened, I didn't build much before. We were mostly doing our own botting stuff or like my own little degen plays, let's say. And like when the ordinals happened, like before ordinals happened, what we were doing was like we came together with my co-founder and we basically first built an indexer for all the EVM chains that can index billions of activities like NFT movements, sale events, DeFi events, etc. So we already like spent a year on how to index billions of crypto assets moving around. So OPI is kind of like 10% of it, like when you think about it. But what we put out is like, we try to make it like as simple as possible product that people can run on their computers by themselves, or like teams who who are building stuff related to meta protocols can just like run their own indexers. But like indexing concept has been kind of our like core technology. And when ordinals happened, we basically applied everything we built so far. It was like, it was built for EVM and EVM chains, but it was not that hard to apply everything we did to Bitcoin. So that's how it kind of started. And then for best in slot, we already like the best in slot. I don't know if you know, but it comes from like this gaming term. It's like there's sometimes like you have a character and like you use fire magic a lot, and there's this ring that drops in a dungeon, let's say, that boosts your firepower. That's called best in slot. Like in a slot,
The
the
best
best
item of the
item you
slot.
can put in there. Yeah. So
What
that's where
game
it
is
comes
this
from, because
specifically?
like it's general. It's used in all
Yeah,
games.
it could be Diablo, it could be World of
Especially,
Warcraft, it could be, it's just like
yeah,
an adventure
yeah,
game term. Yeah. No,
yeah. Like
that's great. I
MMORPGs
love
use
that
that a
little
lot.
caveat.
Yeah,
Yeah, RPGs, whatever you want to
yeah,
call it.
yeah.
MMO.
Because like um the thesis like was that like, okay, like this um almost like all gaming items will be represented as NFTs, and like games and finance world will just like collide.
Mhm.
So we wanted like that was like a, like a wink to that future,
Like
like
why
with the best in
Ethereum
slot.
was built, right? Yeah. No,
Yeah,
for
yeah. I
sure.
mean, I'm looking for that future. Like
Yeah.
I'm working now so I can just play games again in like
Okay.
5
Well, I look
years,
forward to
10
playing
years.
games with you. Yeah, we'll get our bit boys out, right? But we could talk about that another time, maybe.
Yes, like with our NFT avatars and like with the
Uh,
tradable currencies, with our
yeah,
tradable items, jumping from world to world, that's where we're headed.
cool.
Anyways.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that vision. And then we'll just lead it into Bob and Binari. Thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. If you're not following Bob Bodily on Twitter, you should be. Amazing information for the last year. It's definitely somebody I've been following for a long time. But you put out a thread about BRC-20's 2.0, great branding, as we were chatting about a little bit earlier. But let me just read out the top 5 TLDR points and let's dive into it. So TLDR BRC-20 2.0 in a nutshell. Inscribe EVM number 1, inscribe EVM smart contracts to Bitcoin. Number 2, upgrade indexers to be able to run EVM smart contract code in brackets, simple EVM integration. Number 3, include an inscription ID with your BRC-20 transactions indicating which smart contract plus function you want to interact with. Number 4, the indexer pulls in the relevant smart contract code, pulls the inputs, brackets, your BRC-20 transaction, and then runs the inputs through the relevant code, updating BRC-20 state accordingly. And that's something I think you'll hear a lot is state. Last year was about indexing. This year, I think it'll be about indexing at states, but we'll get more into that. And then number 5, you're done. Pretty simple. So Bob, I'm guessing maybe this article came or this thread came together because of your conversation with Binari. So could you give us a little context and kind of just dive into why you wrote it?
Yeah, if just a bit of context on the BRC-20 side, there
Mhm.
has, I mean, I guess in the last few weeks we did have a protocol upgrade, but prior to that, we haven't had a protocol upgrade on BRC-20. It's been a very static protocol. Hasn't changed at all.
Yep.
That's a good thing because it's easy to build on, it's easy to maintain your implementation. It's bad because the degens want what the degens want, and that's all kinds, exactly, all kinds of crazy DeFi. DeFi functionality. They want liquidity pools and they want AMMs and they want lending and they want it all natively on Bitcoin L1 in the Meta protocol. And so we've seen a lot of Meta protocols branch off. CBRC20, BRC100, BRC420. I mean, there's probably a list of like 1,000 at this point of different Meta protocols, like playing around the edges. Some of these have more traction than others. But the BRC-20 2.0 angle is let's add this programmability module to BRC-20s, and now you can add you can do any kind of programmability that you want on your BRC-20s. If you want to create a smart contract that escrows your BRC-20s and allows you to do something cool, like you could do it. If you wanted to add any kind of like new function to your Meta protocol, you could do it. You just write the smart contract and inscribe it to Bitcoin, and then you're kind of off to the races. So this could be the upgrade to end all upgrades, you could say. That might be a little bit too like flashy, but
No.
given this programmability
That's
module,
how
you
it
have
came out.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be a turning point. Okay, yeah, Binari, please add more.
It-
And then we'll open it up to questions if you guys want to get your questions ready.
Okay. It's so like, let me give you a little bit context on the backgrounds, what's been happening, why the BRC-20 stayed stagnant. It was kind of because there were a couple entities like Unisat, BestInSlot, OKX, and couple other entities, and they
Alex
have all
Labs,
their
yeah.
own, Alex Labs. Everybody had their own infrastructure, and it was kind of ambiguous, how are we gonna upgrade this protocol, and how are we gonna collaborate as indexers, because everybody needs to follow, otherwise one entity or two entity will branch off with different balances, and then BRC-20 will become trash. Basically, it's gonna lose all the credibility. So it was more of technically speaking, we knew how to upgrade it. It was not a technical issue, but it was a political issue. So it took a while to establish those governance structure around how we're gonna manage these upgrades. And then we basically came to this final state of okay, BestInSlot and Unisat will be co maintainers of the protocol. And then like there are a couple other entities who basically are like the oversight committee who just like checks if we're like doing everything correct within the rules that we set. And it's still like we're basically iterating that the rule set on how do we upgrade it, because tomorrow on a Twitter space, like we're gonna talk about the swaps are coming, like BRC-20
Mm-hmm.
swaps are coming. And it's like the previous upgrade, the 5-letter tickers and self-issuance, it was like a kind of like a test run, because it didn't break the consensus. We did it in such a way that even if some indexers don't follow it, it's not gonna break the balances. That's how we structured that. But with the swaps, it's a state change, and like every indexer needs to basically like index
Mm-hmm.
these swaps. But
No, and this
meanwhile,
is,
like we
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, finish your thought, please. Sorry.
Okay. And even when we were like talking about the swaps, so we've been like for the last 2 months, like every week, um, me, Lorenzo from Unisat, Domo, we just come together every week and just like talk for 30 minutes, an hour on like how to do things. And like couple months ago, when we were like looking at this upgrade concept, me and my co-founder was like, we may not have a lot of shots on doing upgrades to BRC-20 because
Mm-hmm.
it's like coordination, all these like talking about it, writing documentation. Because like on EVM, it's kind of like more straightforward. You don't need like there's no different entities, but this is like there's different entities with totally different programming languages, it's totally different infrastructures, etc.
For
Um,
sure.
so we were like, okay, we may not have a lot of chances to upgrade the protocol. So can we just introduce programmability somehow? So like that's what we started to think about, because it was like, okay, we might not be able to upgrade this thing multiple times or easily. Um, so that's how it came out. And then like we started to think a lot about it, and we kind of got excited and just started to work on it. Like we stopped what we were doing. Like we are building BestInSlot version 2, which is like super close to release. We have infrastructure services that like a lot of people has still a lot of waiting for a lot of different endpoints. But we were like, wow, this can really work, and just like started to work on that. Um, because the basic idea is like indexing at the end of the day, like we look at the Bitcoin blockchain, the data is ordered there and it just sits there publicly. So indexers look and basically additions and subtractions. That's all the indexers do. And when you think about like a computer or a virtual machine or like a virtual computer, it's again just like simple math operations. So with this programmable module, what we're basically doing is just like expanding the concept of indexing. This is not a layer 2. There is no multi-sig. Like we don't change anything. It's just like there are a couple functions on BRC-20 that indexer look and consider it's valid. We are basically expanding the set of valid inscriptions so indexers can just do a little bit more computation. And because we know EVM, because we worked with it a lot on not just like the application layer, but on lower layers also, we chose EVM. And it's like battle tested for DeFi. There's a lot of developers around it. People know how to work with it. A lot of it's got battle tested, because it's like when you think about introducing programmability, you can choose other things. You can choose like other virtual machines, other programming languages, like all sorts of things. We simply picked EVM because first, we know how to work with it. The second, it's battle tested. Third, it has huge network effects. And it's kind of like my personal view is like best Bitcoin becomes the like the asset issuance blockchain. Like we issue, we do big stuff there. And then we basically like, we can take your Bitcoin native assets, and if you want to use them, use on other layer twos. So using EVM makes it easy to bridge BRC-20 assets onto other EVM chains also. So that's another like design decision that we made.
Very cool. Yeah, real quick, thank you for that, and definitely looking forward to it. I know Block has been really interested in the programmatic module and studying that along with myself. So Block, did you have something? And then we'll kind of round table through that. Any other questions out
Yeah,
there?
what I'm like really interested in is like all the intersections and like how they all tie together. So like you see like Unisat out there with like what is they're calling fractal Bitcoin. And since they're a participant in like the upgrade of BRC-20s and like working with you guys, and you know, you guys have this coordination now, like the real question is like, how does this all tie together? And is this like a competing thing? Because it doesn't feel like it. I feel like if you're all working together, there's this part of like the grander plan, or maybe it just inserts into programmability and it's a product that they're putting out. I just wonder how, is there any info you can give us on fractal Bitcoin?
Yeah, I don't know much about fractal Bitcoin. Like Lorenzo is super excited about it. But it's basically kind of like a layer two or like a different scaling solution. Like BRC-20 programmable module and fractal Bitcoin are totally separate things.
Okay.
Just like making BRC-20 programmable makes it easier to bridge it to other side chains, layer twos, like whatever you want to call them.
Maybe a tool
But
that fractal Bitcoin needs to get there, right? Like a step along the way to making
no,
fractal. Well, you
no,
said it
like
would be
fractal
helpful, so that's what
Bitcoin.
I was saying.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's kind of like the programmable module. It's like it don't have much things to do with Unisat, and they're like things it has much things to do with us. It's
Okay.
it's kind of like I don't know, I'm kind of like a proof of work maxi a little bit, not like super. So I believe that like robust financial applications should live on like Bitcoin, and it's gonna happen one way or another. So it's kind of like when we realized we can actually do it, we were like, wow, we can actually create the first programmable Bitcoin native asset. And it's like, we're not scaling Bitcoin, but we're scaling, not let's say scaling, but like, we're not making Bitcoin fully programmable, but we're making a Bitcoin native asset programmable. That's the first thing. And when you make it programmable, and then you can scale just BRC-20, not Bitcoin itself.
That's
Okay,
a
so
great way to put
Bitcoin
it.
stays as the main settlement layer, which it should be like that, I think. And then you can still do a lot of like airdrops, staking, pools, swaps, lending, whatever you want to do, because it's fully programmable on layer one. But it won't be that feasible for a lot of people to do DeFi stuff on Bitcoin. So it's more like a big settlement layer, but we're gonna do stuff on like layer twos and other places.
Okay.
I had another question real quick. Just real quick. Like with the recent upgrade, you guys took advantage of like some of the unique properties of Bitcoin and ordinals by embracing the parent-child aspect. Are there like other unique properties of Bitcoin that like we're looking to use in as like BRC-20 grows out? Or is that something we can utilize to like make the protocols? It's very unique.
Um, it's not like I mean, what it makes it, how to put it? We can talk a little bit about like why we can do it with BRC-20, but why we can't do it with runes, maybe. It's
Yep.
yes, like we can utilize some of the ordinals mechanics or some of the Bitcoin mechanics, but main idea here is that like BRC-20 is account based or
Mhm.
fully virtual. It's literally lives in the books of like, it's like indexers does the computation. It's totally virtual. There is no coins moving around. It's like people write checks, give the checks to each other, and then checks just become trash. And people argue that like, hey, like you leave your trash on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's a valid argument, but it also like brings a lot of like things like, oh, because it's fully virtual, we can actually do a lot more with it, like just
Programming
making
wise,
fully
yeah.
programmable.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when you, for example, think about the UTXO model, UTXO model is like it's kind of like a accounting model, and it gives you a certain framework on how you're gonna do math. So it already has like a framework on how you do it. BRC-20 don't has that. So you don't have like so you
Open
can go
sandbox
wild.
almost. Yeah.
Yes. So we're
Okay.
going wild with it basically right now.
Cool. I
Binari,
want to
Awesome.
well, real quick, I just wanted to get Bob back in and we'll get it back. But Bob, I was just curious if you had any input on fractal Bitcoin, if you've looked at that, and then just maybe some context on like comparison of BRC-20s and runes like we ended there. And then I'll give it to you 1 and 2.
Yeah, hadn't even heard of fractal Bitcoin ever in my entire life. And
Okay.
so as soon as it was mentioned, I jumped onto their Twitter, and then I got their white paper and did a quick skim and fed it through a couple AI models to get summaries.
Nice.
And so I'm not all the way up to speed still. Like I don't
And there's not a ton
understand.
of documentation. It's totally an idea still, right?
Yeah, I don't understand how the recursive virtualization of Bitcoin Core, giving you
In the
additional
elevator system. Yeah.
instances and layers. I don't know how that actually scales Bitcoin in a way that inherits the security of Bitcoin. It's like a new scaling paradigm. So it's going
Hmm.
to take some work to like grasp the trade-offs of that model. But
Hmm.
it sounds really, really interesting. And I think it kind of fits in with the modularity thesis. There are two kind of main ways that you can scale blockchains. One is the monolithic thesis. This is like, let's just upgrade Bitcoin and make it better. And it'll be
Hmm.
easier for everyone. Let's add opcat, let's add CTV, let's add a couple more opcodes, and Bitcoin's just going to be better for everyone. The other, and this is the Solana thesis as well. Let's just make a blockchain that's really, really good, a single monolithic stack. Then there's the modularity thesis where it's all about layers. This is like, let's have a data availability layer, and let's have a proving layer, and let's have a settlement layer. And it feels like this fractal Bitcoin idea is very much on the modular side, where it's fractals or like layers upon layers, and you could scale with layers. So I think it fits on the modularity side. I don't truly understand the trade-offs of fractal Bitcoin yet.
For sure. Thank you for that. And maybe just like a quick, your feelings, BRC-20s versus runes and kind of the UTXO versus account model.
Sure. Yeah. Quick hits on the BRC-20 versus runes debate, I guess I'll
Hmm.
say. Runes you store in the op return. BRC-20 you store in the witness data. That means that it's cheaper to store BRC-20 data than it is to store runes data, because witness data gets a 4x discount.
Yep.
So runes, just by default, if you have 100 bytes and 100 bytes, it's going to be 4 times more expensive. Not technically, because you have overhead and overhead in each transaction. But runes isn't stored in the witness data, so you don't get that ordinals witness data discount. Then runes is a very elegant, byte efficient protocol.
Okay.
Casey, as a Bitcoin developer and as a fantastic Bitcoin developer, he's crafted what's it's similar to other standards, like there are like counterparty or stamps or SRC20 or even like RGB or other protocols that have used op return in the past. And it has some similarities to those. This is like Casey's version of it. Very elegant protocol, byte efficient, very friendly to people that like are trying to build on Bitcoin in a byte conscious way. So protocol is very elegant, very nice. And let's see. One of the downsides of runes is you can't batch batch mint runes. What I mean by that is runes are tied 1-to-1 to a Bitcoin transaction. So you have a Bitcoin transaction, you can either etch a rune or you can mint a rune, but you can't mint 100 runes in the same transaction. So that means that there's a little bit of transaction overhead in every single runes transaction that you do. In contrast with like BRC-20, you could just batch inscribe. So I could go in and you can just batch inscribe like 1,000 all in the same transaction. It turns out to be actually pretty similar in terms of cost, I think. I haven't actually done a really in-depth comparison yet, but that's one downside of runes is you can't really batch mint. And then one other downside of runes is the cenotaph model, which I'm sure everyone has seen at this point. Cenotaph is a really elegant solution to the protocol. Essentially, if you create a cenotaph, that means a runes transaction with an error in it somewhere. It burns all of the runes balances in the inputs. Initially, it felt really bad to me. Like, this is a terrible user experience. People are going to get wrecked. You know, people are going to burn all their runes. Casey made the point that, well, if you trust a service, then you should trust that they're going to properly format your runes transactions. And so I think that there are definitely pros and cons on the developer experience and user experience side with the cenotaph model. I think it's likely people are going to get wrecked in some fashion by using these third-party tools. You know, come use our tool and we'll craft your runes transaction, and you come and do it, and there's an error and your balance is nuked and there's nothing you can do and it's game over. I mean, that's kind of like if it ever happens at least once to a user anywhere, then it's like, hey, look what just happened to me on this new runes protocol that's supposed to solve all of these problems.
Or the client line, you have no clue what you're doing. Or, yeah.
Right. So, but there are benefits to the cenotaph model as well. BRC-20 has the nice feature of it just ignores malformed messages. So, yeah, from that perspective, I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that's kind of a quick hit BRC-20 versus runes.
That was good and informative. Yeah, 1 and 2. Sorry, I cut you off. Please ask your question.
No, you didn't cut me off.
That was me, actually.
Oh, my bad. Oh,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just actually had a follow-up to Binari's comment about virtualization. Like, to me, so all these receipts are out in the air, like you said, and you virtualized it and you've captured state in the virtual environment. What is the limitations of that virtual environment? Is it scalable, infinitely scalable? Is it like, can you let us know what the resource constraints are for that?
Yes. So here's the interesting thing. For example, on EVM, on Ethereum, you have a gas limit, right? Like there is an amount of gas that you use for your transactions, etc. So because indexers are basically like, okay, I kind of like lost. So let's assume like on Ethereum, the amount of transactions that you can do is kind of like upper limited by the gas amount. And for example, we don't have that on Bitcoin. It affects the indexing time, but because the computation happens off-chain on these like off-chain indexers, you can go a little bit more wild with the amount of transactions you can do. We kind of like try to make it like when a new block comes out, the indexing should be completed within 30 seconds. So like this, we are still like playing with it, but the amount of computation that you can do on Bitcoin in 10 minutes will be close to like 2 times more than what you can do on Ethereum in 10 minutes. So settlement time is much longer. It's like on average, we have 10-minute block times, so settlement times are longer. But in one block, the amount of transactions you can do is basically right now, like it's close to 2x. But if we get, we don't know how the market will like come to it. Is 30 seconds too much? Can we can optimize it more to reduce the amount of gas used? But like there is this still concept of gas, but the participants don't pay for the gas. You only pay for Bitcoin transactions. Okay, you only pay for your JSON file again to interact with your smart contract on Bitcoin, but computation happens off chain. It's it's a new thing in the crypto space. It's like kind of market accepted how this works. Like, okay, let's if the ordering and data availability is on Bitcoin and computation happens off chain, that's fine by us. Like every participant was like that, because this was not even like questioned before, kind of. And then it started to get questioned with this like indexer centralization topics, etc. But it's like when we think about like this gas concept, the amount of transactions you can do within a gas, it's gonna work differently on the like BRC-20 2.0. Because we're not bounded by the gas. You're more bounded by like the cost of Bitcoin transactions, basically. But it's not like it will be always adjacent. For example, like on Ethereum, you know, sometimes you're like degenning into something and you have like 5-6 different protocols interlocked and you need to pay like $600 Ethereum or like $1,000 in gas. It won't be the same case with Bitcoin. Like you'll still pay, but it's more like it's not the amount of computation you're doing, it's the amount of like how much text you use, kind of how much data you use, like you put on Bitcoin.
Binari, isn't there a risk though? Like, what if I created a really complicated smart contract and I just started shoving tons of data in, and there's no gas limit, and so it's basically, you know, your indexer is running into is going to run into scaling limits as well. You know, single-threaded machine, and if I'm pumping through like just crazy amounts of computation here, like let's say there's
Yeah.
some new meta protocol or some new idea and everyone is doing it and it's just cranking. It's like cranking all the compute. It seems like there could be problems here, right?
Yeah, there is like there will be limitations. I'm just like speaking technically, we're not bound by it, but it opens up attack vectors to indexers. So
Yeah.
we are doing those attacks ourselves currently to like take the necessary like measurements, because like it's not just EVM, like we are customizing. For example, it's like it's deterministic, so the indexers still don't need to communicate. Like if everybody looks at the same data and runs this same client or like same indexing mentality, they should come up to the same concept. There are no blocks. It's like it's just we're basically using it as a like a VM, virtual machine. But I just like want to stress this out because people sometimes like, oh, like will BRC-20 will be like a layer 2, like those kind of stuff. That's why I'm like, no, it's just like we're expanding the indexing concept. Nothing changes.
Well, I use this
Um,
example, like running Bitcoin Core is indexing the Bitcoin blockchain. I mean,
yeah,
we're already
exactly.
doing it. So if you
Yeah.
believe in the Bitcoin blockchain, you believe in indexing.
Now, are
But
you limited to the next block though, or can you schedule changes that happen in the indexer for a few blocks in the future to change the state, or does it all have to happen within that same block?
so
I
I know
maybe
I
don't
just
the
gave an idea there.
I
Maybe you could. I'll
maybe
plug you for
I'm
that.
not
well,
the main architect with this.
well, I was thinking
But
kind of like there's
it's
with runes, right? Like you can put the runes like initial transaction out, but you don't reveal it until later. Is that what you kind of mean?
Well, yeah. So you have this virtual environment, but it's not limited to just writing back to the main layer in the next block. It could batch it out for the next few blocks if it's feasible or if it's programmed that way.
Sure, sure. Like
yeah.
you could have a smart contract. Imagine a staking smart contract. You stake BRC-20s in some, it's basically like a virtual transfer of sorts where, I don't know, your balance gets ported into this smart contract and then it could just mint you. Uh, mm, balance running the smart contract through. You don't rerun it. How do you do persistent state changes, Binari? Like,
Those are
what if
questions
this?
for my CTO.
Fair enough.
I
And
mean,
that's
I am technical, but I'm not like super deep into it. Like he is the main wizard behind the programmable module.
Yeah, like
Can
what if
we
the smart
talk about
contract
how
says,
we take this and decentralize it with OPI, like incentivize people to run nodes and run the indexer? Because that's really that like builds trust in this whole thing, right? And that's like really key to this whole the indexer, right? Is that everybody
Yeah.
can run.
So this is a totally different topic. Like Bob, were you gonna like say something?
Yeah, sorry, Bob.
oh no, it's totally fine. We can crash after
Mhm.
this sometime, and we can chat through persistent smart contract state updates. We don't have to go down
We
the
were getting a
rabbit
little
hole
high
right now.
level there. Yeah. I love it though. Yeah, I love the
Yeah.
interaction. But yeah, no, please, Binari, yeah, let us know
Okay.
why OPI and many people running it. I've helped a few people run it and been running it since the early days. So
Yes. Okay.
What is OPI, first off, I guess?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So OPI, Open Protocol Indexer, it's an indexer, basically. It's just a piece of program that computes the BRC-20 state or any other meta protocol state. So when you just say like OPI, it's literally a standalone client. It's not a network. It's not a blockchain. It's not something like that. Okay. So
So, and for
OPI is an
context,
indexer.
yeah, it's literally using Bitcoin Core and the ORD client that you're already using within Bitcoin Core, and then additional indexing on top of that.
Yes, it basically it applies the protocol rules. It still looks at the Bitcoin blockchain. It still looks at the ORD, and then like it basically applies a couple more like computation things. So the main reason behind like we first introduced it was because like for BRC-20 to become like a bigger thing, everybody should be able to like run their own indexers. Indexer concept should be open source. Okay, we needed basically like a reference implementation on how to do it. So this was like the first pillar to upgrading BRC-20. Like before having a reference implementation, it's impossible to do upgrades. Okay, for example, with the previous upgrade, 5-ticker upgrades, we were like, okay, this is the upgrade, this is the code, and like this is what the upgrade does, but like you need to put the code out so other indexers can like understand how it works. When you only have specs written on a document, yes, like it's needed, it's required, but it's not enough, because like when programmers wanna like include that into their infrastructure, it's always good to have like a as simple as possible example on how we did it. So that's the first thing, okay? The second thing is like couple months ago, like only Unisat and BestInSlot were like the main data providers for BRC-20. And it was kind of like, yes, the whole, like there's like $6 billion worth, but like it's the 90% of the indexing is done by two entities. And that raised a lot of questions, and like we were kind of like aware of it. But like the roadmap, we did like a quick roadmap, again, like talking to all the parties, and we were like, okay, what do we need? We need an open source indexer. So we built that because we knew how to build like indexers. So we took that task. And then like the second point becomes like, okay, everybody has their indexers, but are everybody coming to the same conclusion? The hash comparison thing that we have on it, the thing that we had on the leaked website, let's say the first, because like it was just a table for internal use, the OPI.network. But anyways, so the hash comparison was required because previously, like as BestInSlot, we have our own systems because we're also doing aggregation work. we were basically checking all other services like Ordinals Wallet, Unisat, OKX, etc. by our own internal things to check if everybody was like on the same page. And we were like, when people deviating, we were like DMing on Telegram chat groups, hey, like you're doing something wrong, or like you're doing something wrong. And at some point we were like, okay, how do we like what do we need? We need a hash comparison tool. So we built that and built that into the OPI also. And not just for BRC-20 while we were at it, we built it for like all other meta protocols also. So you can like an easy hash comparison for all meta protocols. It's like a tool set for meta protocols in a sense. Okay. And then the question becomes, okay, like how do you fully decentralize this thing? And the roadmap towards that is kind of like we started centralized and now we have this like open source indexer, and there is a lot of like teams running their own OPI indexer for now, for example. Yes, they like report to the hash, but like they don't even care about it. They just needed an
Well, I can give
indexer,
you
so
an
like they're just like
example.
using it.
I showed it to Harry at Ordinal's Wallet, her backend dev, and he started running it. I'm sure you've seen them on there, but he said he enjoyed it a lot because it just let them know, hey, are we in sync or are we out of sync, right? So even though they've built their own indexer just for that simple tool to be like, okay, are we on the same state as everybody else? It created value for them to implement it on their own.
Exactly. And that's what like there's a lot of entities are doing it soon on the list, OPI.network. You're gonna see a lot of big names with their ticks. So so here's the thing. From centralized state, first we need to go to a federated state, okay? It's not a design choice, it's like we don't have any other choice because like Bitcoin itself is not programmable, and the other option becomes like we build a layer 2 and stuff with multi-sig things. I don't think well about like multi-sig layer 2s. I think we're gonna see like huge losses. Like some layer 2s will just get like locked up, or like but whatever we saw on Ethereum, we're gonna like see similar events happening in this like layer 2 space because like it's kind of weak. But anyways, that's not the topic. Um, I'm basically just let me like tie that up for really like good um layer 2s. We basically need new opcodes. Like that's my perspective. Like when we get new opcodes, we're just gonna have like beautiful layer 2s, beautiful side chains. All current things are kind of like hacky ways of doing it.
Drive chain or
It
something of that
works.
nature.
Yeah. But anyways, I also haven't spent a lot of time on those. I'm mostly focused on what can we do on Bitcoin layer 1 because it's the new shiny toy in my opinion. But like going back to this decentralization of the indexing. So the first state is like, okay, let's have a federation. Like let's just grow the set of like trusted entities who are doing these indexers. So we're in that state now. We're soon gonna have like 15 verified indexers, and these are basically like reputable entities within the ecosystem that has like vested interest in the success of BRC-20 and all other Bitcoin meta protocols. And then to fully like decentralize it, there are two pathways. First, either you make BRC-20 programmable, you somehow have like you need programmability. Otherwise, you can't decentralize this indexing concept. Otherwise, it's just gonna be you're gonna use some kind of layer 2 scheme, and with the things how they are right now, that's not gonna be like a viable solution. It's like Bitcoin native assets. Right now, the total market cap is like around 8 billion. And it has the capacity to go up to like a trillion in like coming 5 years, 10 years. If we think like Bitcoin becomes the main asset issuance layer, it's like the global notary system, like human notary system kind of thing. So when you think about like, in this case, when you think about BRC-20, for example, let's assume it's not like 5 billion total market cap, but it's like 100 billion. But the indexing is decentralized with like 5 multi-sig things, or like 10 multi-sig or 100 multi-sig rotating schemes and stuff. It's risky. It's like I don't want to do it that way kind of approach. So it's like we don't know how to do it. Like that's like the TLDR, but there is a lot of like ways towards that, and all the ways like it's like okay, let's make it more robust as to the before state by basically making indexing very easy, and then grow the trusted set of indexers to like hundreds, kind of like Solana. It's not like validators, but it's like truth setters basically, because um, and like when you have a programmable BRC-20, it basically opens the gates towards like having proof of stake kind of systems that people can like bet for their truths. Like that's one approach. Um, there are other approaches, okay? There are like
Mm.
subjective network concept, for example. Like I spent a lot of time on subjective networks, like blockchains are single truth machines, but you also have like subjective networks which can hold multiple truths. It's again like a network product. But with the OPI, for example, what you can have is like you set your trusted entities, and then you can use your own tokens also. Okay, so there can be like different islands of different sets of indexers setting the truth with their different methods of staking or like whatever they want to do. Like that can also be like a future. This is what we like also think about, because like one of our advisors is also um he has a lot of history in the Bitcoin space, and currently he doesn't work on like Bitcoin, but he builds these like subjective networks. So there's a lot of ways to approach like decentralizing the indexing concept. Right now it's like um we are taking steps towards that, and it's like okay, if we have like a programmable asset, it's going to unlock a lot of other things, and some of those things will be utilizable to actually um, decentralizing the indexing part. I mean, even in this explanation, like one of the approaches is like we still ask this question, like do we really need like a decentralized indexing scheme, because it's kind of like you already have the ordered data, you already have the data availability layer, and all you do is like run a static program, and everybody should come to the same conclusion. Okay, so do we really need like a token system for truth attestations? Because this is not like we're not building like a proof of stake network, proof of stake chain. This is not like that. So that's why I'm like, we didn't just like, okay, we're gonna like do a token. We always talk about like, we may have a token, but we may not have a token, and we don't know what the token will do if we have a token. Because another angle is like, we operate all this, like we maintain OPI, we have the hash reporting system. It's kind of like centralized right now because it's needed, but we can like start taking steps toward decentralizing the hash reporting system also. But like one can argue that like, hey, like we're a company and this is a lot of responsibility for you. So like we need to basically like decentralize that responsibility. So OPI might have like evolved into a DAO with its token to take decisions, but the tokens may not necessarily be like a truth attestation or staking thing. It makes sense for it to be like there is some kind of like a staking mechanism for node operators to become like to be able to kind of like Solana model, like you stake and like top 100 gets to become like validators or like whatever the number is. But this is like we talk and talk and talk and ask questions, and then
Mm-hmm.
this is the point where we came like, okay, let's just make it programmable first.
Right.
Because like
One step at a
there's
time.
so many unknowns. one step at a time. Like this thing works right now. We know how to like make it programmable. We know how to make it scalable, and we know how to at least like a path towards decentralization, but it's not like clear.
Right.
We are being open about that because like if I say this is how we're gonna do it, it's like I don't know. I'm
Well, it's
openly
like,
saying it like
yeah, it's like when you're in
there's too
math and
many
you're,
unknowns.
yeah, you're doing a proof, right? And like the proof is true, whether I do it or you do it or this or that. Like you're just trying to give Bitcoin a proof of state for XYZ, right? And anybody can go take that code, fork it, and do whatever they want with it. You're just giving the model, and obviously you want your company to be the leader in this realm, right? But it's out there already. I mean, there's other people that can do the math problem if they choose to. So that's really good. Is there any other questions, BRC-20 or runes related? We're starting to get towards the hour, so I wanted to move on to our last
I
more fun.
I guess I wanted to find out like what use cases of BRC-20 2.0 programmability that Bob and Binari are most excited about, even if
That's
it's
a good
just
one.
one of them. So
Yeah, you want to lead us off, Bob?
Sure. Let's see. Crazy use cases. So with the programmability module, you could theoretically at least lock BRC-20 token balances in smart contracts. You would essentially be like transferring your balance to a smart contract. And you would just do it with a single BRC-20 meta protocol, just a single Bitcoin transaction. If you did that, then you now have full smart contract capability. If you wanted to do liquidity pools, if you wanted to stake your BRC-20, if you wanted to do an AMM, if you wanted to do lending, if you wanted to do like over collateralized lending, I mean, pick anything on Ethereum, just pick your favorite product from Ethereum and do it with BRC-20 on the meta protocol layer. So not as a layer 2, not as another blockchain. It's just a meta protocol on Bitcoin, but it gives you all the awesome programmability that you get on like Ethereum. So NFTs, DAOs, DeFi, I mean, just pick your product and build it on Bitcoin with BRC-20. Like it could be that crazy. Which is this is why it's a paradigm. This is why it's a paradigm shift. This is why, it's BRC-20 2.0. This is like a new way to do crazy things with BRC-20 on Bitcoin.
Well, that's what thing I pulled from there. Your thread or your tweet was all of your critiques from BRC-20 are solved by BRC-20 2.0. So I just find that very interesting. That a lot of that has kind of moving along with the upgrades coming, and it was great that you did this thread, and I found it super interesting. Binari,
I'd love to
please.
hear from Binari. Yeah.
Yeah. Like swaps, like we're already testing. So like one critical thing is that like you won't be able to just take anything and slap it onto BRC-20 programmable module, because like you need to make design changes, like economic design changes or how the system works, because the block time is 10 minutes. Like liquidation markets does not function as they function on Ethereum. Like you're gonna need to have different approaches. So like borrowing and lending will be a little bit like different. We have some ideas. I personally like we're gonna have swap products on BestInSlot also, because we're already testing it internally. Like how does like Uniswap contracts work, or so like that's one thing. The second thing is like basically DeFi applications, but I'm like a like it's kind of like an alpha, but like let's put it like that. You'll be able to stake your ordinals also. Okay, so it's gonna open up like all kinds of like game mechanics. You'll be able to do something like, okay, this is how the game works, and to play, like you're gonna like write this inscription, and then you're gonna start like gaining some points, and you'll be able to like use those points. It's up for anything. I think like Web3, social profiles, social games, DAOs,
In
because
this line, are you in contact with Ord's Heroes and Ord's Games regularly?
Yeah.
Okay.
We hang out a lot. Yeah.
I figured because they're programming a lot in this module style. So
Yeah.
cool.
So like I'm personally, we're gonna ship. We're basically gonna ship a lot of DeFi products when the BRC-20 becomes like programmable, because like we are experienced in DeFi stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, now I can do this on Bitcoin. Of course I'm gonna do it. Like,
All
so,
right.
so that's our like
Okay.
main like focus. But
Would
I'm
that
also like,
would that be under Best in Slot or another spin-off or
yeah, Best in Slot.
okay,
It's like
the parent company
we designed the
basically.
version 2. Like version 2 took a long time because we were like, okay, like BRC-20 becomes programmable. We have all these like new meta protocols. So what kind of product are we really building? So because like when we release the programmable module, for example, you need an explorer to interact with the things. So you'll be able to use Best in Slot again with those.
Wow.
But it's basically a like a Bitcoin native experience. Like we're like the best Bitcoin native experience. That's what we try to do. But like we can launch other products also, because like sometimes it's just like fun to hack a week and then just like ship something out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, we look
yeah,
forward
but
to it
like
for sure.
currently the focus is on like let's make BRC-20 programmable. OPI has kind of its own momentum with like hash comparisons will start soon. And then like let's try with these like new DeFi apps, and let's see like the developer attention, because like if it's just us or just like 5 developers building on it, it's not gonna be a thing. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of like moving parts if like people will be interested in like using the programmable module. And then like what I'm interested in personally is also when you have these like DeFi and smart contracts on top of Bitcoin, there are like hybrid solutions. Like within one block, you can actually combine on-chain and off-chain transactions. Like, like there's OTC desks, there's a lot of like other stuff happening. There will be, so I'm like, this 10-minute window, like 12 second, it doesn't make sense. You just like always settle on the Bitcoin, on the like the blockchain on Ethereum. But when you have 10 minutes and you have like 10-minute settlement intervals, it opens up like a new window. It's kind of like it's not a bug, it's a featured thing. But like you can do a lot of things in between that like 10-minute um, window, and
Mhm.
then just settle.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can like mix and match on-chain and off-chain stuff. But like but this is I'm talking about like 2 years, 3 years later,
Yeah,
probably.
okay. Okay.
Uh,
No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for that vision. Definitely. So we're gonna transition here a little bit. I think Kramer, unless anybody had one real quick thing to add in. I think we're good. Okay. Kramer, could you dive into our top 10 this week?
Oh man, it's time for that. The top 10
Yeah.
expectations for after the halving. Oh my
Ooh.
goodness. Well, let's hit it, man. Number 10, no one ever mentions atomicals ever again. Wow,
Wait,
that's
so hang on. The title is the top 10 expectations for Beyond the Halving.
Mhm.
yeah.
What's gonna
Okay, I was
happen
gonna
after having?
gotcha.
Wow. That one started out spicy. Number 9, OMB Rainbow Eyes drop. Wow. Number 8, all traders set max limit bids at 69,420.
Already done.
Number 7, CBRC-20 still fixes everything. Number 6, mempool black block chime changes to a fart sound. Number 5, Solana liquidity trapped in hell for eternity. Number 4, Bitcoin CO resigns during post-halving dump. Damn. Number 3, runes are only for the wealthy stoners with nodes. Dang, that's probably true. Number 2, Casey Rodarmer gets invited to be on Dancing with the Stars. You can dance. I think that'll work. And I guess the number one for top 10 expectations after the halving, world peace is achieved.
Woo, world peace.
Yeah, there's that.
Right on. Well, yeah, thank you for that, Kramer. And yeah, that's our final topic, I guess, is just as we were talking to with Binari, what do you guys see post halving? I think Bob, you mentioned this a little bit about BRC 2.0, 20 2.0, kind of leading the way once the hype of runes. So yeah, what are your thoughts post halving?
Post halving is going to be a crazy time. I think we're going to see elevated fee rates on Bitcoin for a while. I mean, we saw this with BRC-20. We had the early phase, and then it kind of died down for a while, and then we had the second wind. And in both of those scenarios, just tons and tons and tons and tons of token deploys and meme coins. It's interesting to think about this particular cycle because last year we had season 1 of meme coins early in the year, and we had season 2 of meme coins later in the year. And then in 2024, we've had meme coin season 3. I don't know that anyone would have predicted meme coin season 1, 2, and 3. I think a lot of people thought we were, I don't know, pushing more towards the utility side of things. But meme coins are alive and well on Solana, on Base, on lots of other chains, and so all of that coming to Bitcoin just makes sense. And I think Runes is a brand new protocol, lots of hype from Casey. Runes is going to be successful because people want it to be successful at this point. And I mean, it's a good standard and everything like that, but there's just so much hype that people are going to trade it. People are going to want to find the Ordi of Runes. Ordi Minter's got a 25,000x or something like that. And so people are trying to find those kinds of meme coin gains. And if they can get it with Runes, then they're going to try to get it with Runes. So I think we're going to see elevated fee rates for the foreseeable future. I don't know how long that cycle lasts. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's less. But with BRC-20, I mean, we kind of saw, we just saw elevated fee rates for a while. So it'll be really interesting how that impacts everything. I think miners are happy post halving, regardless of what which fungible token standard wins, because this halving more than any other halving, there's sustained fee demand. There's sustained block space demand, and I think this halving is going to be the impact of this halving is going to be largely mitigated by Runes and this elevated fee environment.
Great points. Binari?
Yeah. So, okay, BRC-20 becomes swappable, and then BRC-20 becomes programmable. And somewhere in between, we're gonna release like 1 letter, 2 letter, 3 letter, and plus 6 letter namespaces for BRC-20. And for Runes, it's definitely gonna have, it's like a beautiful protocol plus extremely memeable. The meme power is like super strong. So it's here to stay. But yeah, I agree, like it's gonna like burn up, and then like we're gonna trade, and then probably through the like towards the summer, or like at the end of May, like it's gonna like slow down. And we're gonna see like DAOs. It's like a couple teams has been working on that. I think like it's gonna come to completion, like Bitcoin DAOs, truly native, like managing their treasuries, voting and stuff. That's coming.
You mentioned the swap.
Well,
Is that, to dive in there real quick, is there going to be a color change of the swap soon? Is that maybe a hint that's coming out? This is recorded, so it won't be out before tomorrow. If you wanted to lead into
yeah,
that, maybe.
like swaps will take like 2 months to activate. It's the Unisat's swap proposal, the initial one.
Okay.
First, like it's another feature set adding to BRC-20. Basically, you'll be able to like swap BRC-20s, and every company or entity can have their own pools, set their own fee tokens in BRC-20. So it's
So
basically
they're giving like the
this,
substructure of Unisat's system and saying anybody can use it, open sourcing it.
yeah. That's the point. It's like there will be an open source sequencer and the OPI. It's already like if you dig deep into OPI branches, it lives somewhere, the swap implementation. But like we're basically gonna have like on the website like BRC-20 swap module, and when you click that on the testnet, you'll be able to see hash comparisons for the swaps. Okay, like BRC-20 things, runes things. I think okay, DAO stuff. We're gonna see more private mempools. That's another thing.
Right.
There's already like Marathon Digital already put their own private mempool out. So we're gonna see a couple more coming up from like different entities. Block production in Bitcoin will change forever, especially after like programmable module, because you'll be able to order transactions and stuff. It's gonna be like kind of much more complex than how we do it on Ethereum, but it's gonna be a thing. And some pools will like give that as a service to their hash power. So there will be new generation pools who are like building much more profitable blocks. So like pool and hash rate cards will be reshuffled basically after halving. And the Bitcoin hash rate will just keep going exponential for like a while more. And I think we're gonna after, because it's after halving, we can just like put a lot of things, but we're gonna see like real world assets tokenized on Bitcoin blockchain. That's definitely gonna happen. I mean, I even wanna do it, but it's more like a business development topic. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing. And oh, we're gonna see the first like 3 block, maybe even like 4 block reorgs happen. Like we we pretty much see like 1 block reorgs. I don't know if we ever had 2. I don't know much about like what happened in the last
Okay, so
20
why do you
years.
think that? We'll wrap it up at this point and let Bob
It will be
reply.
profitable to do it. It's
Okay.
like it things can come to such a point that reorganizing 1 or 2 blocks could be profitable. It again depends on like what's the volume of activity happening on Bitcoin layer 1. But like that's definitely we're gonna see. It's gonna be like, oh, we saw 3 block reorg. Like it's gonna be a
Well,
Twitter thing. People will talk about it. There will be a lot of drama around it,
yeah,
but it's gonna happen.
it would be huge. No, because like the risk level of holding a block longer by a miner, it goes exponential. So 3 or 4 is just, from my mild bit of knowledge, Bob, please step in.
I had this debate with Charlie and Jake and others, and my opinion is we won't see a reorg at all.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is the halving block is going to be a high fee block, and the next block is going to be a high fee block, and the block after that is going to be a high fee block. And in order to reorg, you have to risk losing blocks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to try to get block 1, 2, 3.
Exactly.
And so I don't think we're going to see a reorg unless there is like crazy mining pool
hijinks.
Well, like what's the word? Collusion. Collusion is the word. But I actually think economically it makes the most sense to just try to win a block. If you get block 2, that's great. If you get the third block after the halving, that's great. If you get the first block, that's also great. But risking getting block 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to go back and try to build your own chain, block 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like a winner take all kind of strategy. Like you might just lose it
very
all
high risk
and
casino.
miss.
Yeah.
Right. So there's also an argument that mining pools are historically mining pools are not very sophisticated. It's like a hardware business. It's not a software business. And so if you think about it from that perspective, sure, there are a couple mining pools that probably have really smart people, but they're not they're not that sophisticated. And because of that, I think it's really hard to just make changes. I mean, that's going to be a big time. And so you're going to have to like implement some kind of crazy custom technical thing if you're going to want to go after that. And I just don't know. I don't think it happens. I don't think
Occam's
we see a
razor kind of
single.
steps in. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we see.
That's
a
why
single
when you said
reorg.
that, Binari, like I was like, really? Okay, that's a new one. All right. No.
It's a, like a wild assumption.
Yeah, I like it.
But it's
I
kind
like
of like
it.
it's
Shoot the moon.
if right now, like there is no incentive to order transactions. But like when you have like programmable modules, other meta protocols, DeFi stuff happening, that introduces economic incentive to order transactions.
Right.
And like definitely like the old pools who cannot adopt, like in that future, they're gonna just like be replaced by basically new pools.
More sophisticated pools. Yeah, the market
Yeah,
will
more
flush those
sophisticated,
out. Yeah.
just like, yeah, like when the like in 2017, 18, when DeFi was like a new thing, there weren't any sophisticated players. We were just like sitting in our living room and writing bots, and just like bots were like printing. And then like some like really sophisticated players to start to coming in like 2020, 21, like some of them came even earlier. And then we were like, okay, we can't compete with that anymore. So like we stopped doing it basically. So a similar thing will play on Bitcoin. That's for sure. I think.
Cool. I like the divergent views. Yeah. Well, I think we're past an hour now, so thank you all very, very much. If there was any closing notes anybody wanted to put in, please jump in. But once again, Bob, Binari, a pleasure. Definitely plan on chatting with you more. And let's have fun having. And thank you everybody else from coming. Please, final words.
Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, guys. Really appreciate it.
And we are out.
Cubicle, with a voice to choice. Every story celebrated, make some noise from the West worldwide.